Everything you've been told about being strong is a lie. You were taught that independence is power, that needing people makes you weak, that the goal of life is to stand alone, rely on no one, build walls so high that nothing can hurt you. But here's what they didn't tell you. Those walls, they're not protecting you. They're suffocating you. The loneliness you feel right now, that ache in your chest that won't go away, no matter how successful you become, that's not because you're broken. It's because you've been cutting invisible threads that were keeping you alive. And today, I'm going to show you how to restore them before it's too late. In today's episode, The Invisible Threads.
Subscribe now.
You're more connected than you think you
notifications.
are. Sound like some mystical nonsense that has nothing to do with your real life, your bills, your struggles, your lonely nights, wondering why nobody truly sees you. That's not because something's wrong with you. You climbed the ladder, checked the boxes, earned the approval, accumulated the things that were supposed to make you happy. We're wired for connection, hardwired. It's not optional. It's not a luxury. It's as essential as oxygen. What if the connection you're desperate for is closer than you think, just one choice away, and nothing his soul actually needed? This isn't philosophy. This is about your life, your relationships, your heart that's been closed for so long you've forgotten what it feels like to be truly open. They've been there all along. They deepen in ways you never thought possible. While we reflect on the invisible threads that connect us all, write in the comments which city and country you're watching, listening to this daily message of light from. We'd really love to know how far our message is reaching. You wake up every morning and you think you're alone. You look around at the walls of your bedroom, the empty space beside you, the silence that greets you before the day begins. And somewhere, deep in your chest, there's this ache, this quiet, persistent feeling that something's missing. What if I told you it's a signal, a warning from your soul that something fundamental has been severed? That needing people makes you weak. And right now, most of those threads are frayed, weakened. Some of them are barely holding on. You feel small, isolated, alone, but they're all there, connecting that single flame to everything around it. They accumulate possessions, they chase success, and all the while, they're dying of thirst while standing next to a river. I don't care how successful you are. I don't care how much money you have in the bank, or how impressive your resume looks. Without connection, without those threads holding strong, you're slowly dying inside. Stay with me here, because this is going to blow your mind. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. Or you suddenly think of someone you haven't talked to in years, and then they call you out of the blue. That's not coincidence. That's the invisible threads at work. That's the invisible threads becoming visible, if only for a moment. You're broadcasting your inner state to everyone you encounter, and they're broadcasting theirs to you. It's a constant exchange, a dance of energy and emotion, happening beneath the surface of every interaction. Or maybe it's someone you knew years ago, a teacher, a neighbor, a family member whose presence made everything feel brighter. Heavy, discouraged, they go through life on autopilot, unaware that every word they speak, every action they take, every thought they hold in their mind is weaving threads that connect them to the world around them, holding everyone up. You've got two choices in that moment. Maybe not consciously, but somewhere deep down, they sense your energy, and so does everyone else in that line, touching more lives than you'll ever know. Intentional. Despite having more ways to communicate than ever before smartphones, social media, instant messaging, people are lonelier than they've ever been. It's about the strength and authenticity of the invisible threads you're nurturing. As fellow travelers on this journey, each one carrying their own burdens, their own joys, their own invisible threads. But because the individual is strongest when they're connected to the whole, When one tree is under attack by pests, it sends out a chemical signal, and the other trees respond by strengthening their defenses. You never could be. As partners in this shared experience of being human, you'll listen with more attention, knowing that the person in front of you is not your enemy, but a fellow soul trying to navigate the same complex, confusing, beautiful world. More loved. But they're all there. Every thread you strengthen makes the whole web a little bit stronger. The truth is that you are never, ever alone. There's an old saying that goes like this: a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil, and it causes a tornado in Texas. Small actions can have massive, far-reaching consequences that ripple outward in ways we can't always predict or see. They're not just sitting there, waiting to be noticed like decorations on a wall. They're active, dynamic, constantly responding to everything you do. And that power comes with responsibility. It's an intricate, delicate structure. Every strand is connected to every other strand. If you touch one thread, just one, the entire web trembles. The spider, sitting in the center, feels it instantly. And here's the thing: those signals don't just fade away into nothing. He taught social studies, went home every evening, lived a quiet, ordinary life. How was your game last night? Trevor was there. He'll miss me, not just administering meds and moving on to the next room. Really seeing them, really connecting. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. He started talking again, started making plans, started believing that maybe, just maybe, life was still worth living. And eventually, he started a non-profit organization dedicated to providing mental health support to veterans struggling with PTSD and depression. Really let it sink in. That's how your actions ripple outward, touching lives in ways you'll never fully comprehend. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. You're frustrated, angry, at the end of your rope. You stop at a coffee shop on your way home. Recognize that they're human too. Hey, no worries. Mistakes happen. Can we fix it? The roommate, now upset, is short-tempered with a coworker the next day. The coworker, feeling attacked, snaps at a customer. The customer goes home and yells at their kids. Each person passing their pain forward, creating more disconnection, more hurt, more isolation. They're a little gentler with the next customer. That customer, uplifted by the positive interaction, is kinder to their family when they get home. The family feels the warmth and passes it on to their neighbors, their friends, their coworkers. How much can my actions really matter in the grand scheme of things? Add enough drops and the ocean rises. We're constantly hovering near tipping points or enough people choosing connection over isolation. Love over fear, compassion over judgment could trigger a fundamental shift in how we all relate to one another. But history is full of examples where one person's choice, one moment of courage or kindness, changed the trajectory of countless lives. One action. Didn't want applause? He just did what he felt was right. What he felt was human. But you do have to understand that your actions, every single one of them, contribute to the collective energy of humanity. When you choose cruelty, you add cruelty to the web. When you choose dishonesty, you add mistrust. When you choose cowardice, you add fear. You are part of a vast, interconnected system, and every move you make affects the whole. After all, that's what the world tells you to do, right? Look out for number one. The workplace becomes a battleground instead of a community. Everyone's looking over their shoulder, waiting for the knife in the back. The workplace becomes a place of connection, of shared purpose, of mutual support. You don't always know which thread you tugged, which life you touched, which ripple you set in motion. And they help someone else. And on it goes, a chain of compassion stretching through time and space, all connected by invisible threads. With pausing before you act and asking yourself, What kind of energy am I putting into the world right now? Is this choice creating connection or division? Is it adding light or darkness to the web? Ask yourself, will these words strengthen the threads between me and this person, or will they fray them? But if you cultivate thoughts of gratitude, compassion, hope, that's what you'll send out through the invisible threads. You don't have to save the world single-handedly. You just have to do your part. You just have to strengthen the threads within your reach. The strangers you encounter every day. You are a vital, essential part of the web of humanity. What kind of threads will you weave? And his story will show you exactly what happens when we ignore the threads that bind us. A difficult situation, isn't it? David Harrison was, by all conventional measures, a success. A sleek German sedan parked in the reserved spot with his name engraved on a brass plate. No time to linger. No time to ease into the day. Just movement, momentum, the relentless march forward. Travel mug of black coffee in one hand, Italian leather briefcase in the other. David knew every shortcut, every way to shave off an extra minute or two. He'd memorized the timing of traffic lights, knew which lanes moved fastest at which intersections. Time was money, after all, and David was excellent at making money. Just work. She knew when to push back on his requests and when to just execute without question. It was business. He'd look at them with those pale gray eyes that seemed to calculate your value in real time, and you'd see it. The reassessment, the mental note being made. Industry publications featured him in top CEOs under 50 lists. He'd won awards, given keynote speeches at conferences. A problem he barely even acknowledged to himself, except in those quiet moments at 3 a.m. when sleep wouldn't come and the silence pressed in from all sides. Not really. He'd spent decades tugging at them carelessly, ignoring them, treating them like they didn't matter, like they were optional accessories to a life that functioned just fine without them. Trouble sleeping, even when he was exhausted lying awake for hours. Mind racing through tomorrow's meetings, next quarter's projections, 5-year plans that somehow felt hollow even as he refined them. Sleeping pills for the insomnia. Something for the anxiety, though David refused that one. He wasn't anxious. He was fine. He was successful. Find what brings you joy. From living a life where no one really knows you, and you don't really know anyone else. Where every interaction is transactional. Where every relationship serves a purpose. Where genuine connection has been sacrificed on the altar of success. He was sitting in his office, going over quarterly reports, red pen in hand, making notes in the margins. The kind that comes from joy, not obligation. They came and went so quickly, he'd stopped bothering to learn their names. The intern or whoever they were had tears streaming down their face from laughing so hard. Should have made a note to mention it to their managers. Time theft, they called it in the corporate world. Professional relationships that evaporated the moment they were no longer useful. The things that were supposed to matter. He couldn't tell anymore, and he didn't check. He was accomplished. He was respected. His name meant something in his industry. His bank account had more zeros than most people would see in a lifetime. It was on its way, carried by invisible threads he didn't even know existed, from a source he'd never expect. How many have accumulated everything the world told them to want, only to discover wasn't what their soul actually needed? That the goal of life was to build a fortress so strong that nothing and no one could hurt you. More validation from people who didn't actually know him. More achievements that felt hollow the moment he accomplished them. Phone calls that went to voicemail. Text messages that got one-word responses days later. Invitations to family gatherings that David declined with polite excuses. He'd send expensive gifts and a card with his signature printed by Karen, and that was supposed to be enough. He was too successful, too busy, too important for them now. Remember how we used to love trying new places? David would agree, and cancel at the last minute because of work. Can't leave the team hanging. Polite strangers who shared a last name and a mortgage. That was enough. The one who was afraid and uncertain and lonely. The one who sometimes wondered what the point of it all was. Isolated in a way that no amount of money or success could fix. If only he'd be willing to be vulnerable enough to admit he needed them. A message that would change everything. A message delivered through the very invisible threads he'd spent his whole life ignoring. It arrived on a Thursday morning in early December. Coffee in hand extra hot, black, and the travel mug he'd been using for 5 years. Mind already running through the day's agenda like a computer executing a program. 9 o'clock presentation to the board. 11:30 lunch meeting with a potential client. 2 o'clock conference call with the West Coast team. 4:30 review session with the creative department. No wasted time. He was too focused on the presentation, mentally reviewing the slides he'd prepared, anticipating questions from the board, rehearsing responses. Priority items on top. Invoices and routine correspondence beneath. Industry newsletters and promotional materials at the bottom, the stuff he usually tossed without reading. Nothing special about it, except, in his world, anonymity usually meant something bad. A lawsuit, a complaint, some kind of problem he'd have to deal with. Maybe a disgruntled employee, maybe a competitor trying to mess with him. A tiny crack in the armor of his perfectly controlled day. We've never shaken hands or exchanged business cards or sat across from each other in a conference room. I know who you are beneath the suits and the titles and the carefully constructed walls you've spent decades building. You've achieved things that others only dream about. You've built an empire, earned respect, accumulated wealth that should bring security and happiness. Or maybe something you never knew in the first place. Threads of energy, of intention, of shared humanity. Threads that link you to your wife, your family, your colleagues, even strangers you pass on the street. That's not a character flaw that needs to be fixed or medicated or ignored. That the goal is to build a life so perfectly controlled that nothing and no one can hurt you. About what's actually happening in your hearts. That's why you feel empty, even when you're surrounded by people. That's why success feels hollow and achievements feel meaningless. It starts with a choice to look at the people around you and actually see them. Not the version of you that shows up to boardrooms and client meetings. The real you. The one you've been hiding for so long that you've almost forgotten he exists. Not your money or your success or your professional expertise. You can start strengthening those invisible threads that connect you to the world. There are opportunities for connection all around you, waiting for you to notice them. And something cracked inside. Something he'd kept locked away for years, maybe decades. Stuffed it in his desk drawer, slammed the drawer shut. How did they know? What did they want from him? Why would he send an anonymous letter instead of just calling? The way it named the exact thing he'd been feeling, but refusing to acknowledge. He should be in the conference room already, setting up, making sure the technology worked, preparing to dazzle the board with his strategic vision. Such a terrifying prospect. More achievements that felt hollow the moment he accomplished them. More nights standing alone by the window, scotch in hand, wondering why none of it mattered. That he'd damaged his relationships too much. That the threads had grown too weak to repair. Harrison, the conference room is ready. Your 9 o'clock is here. Folded it carefully and slipped it into his inside jacket pocket, right over his heart. Seemed impressed. Then the 5th. When was the last time he'd told her he loved her and actually meant it, instead of just saying the words out of habit? When had David decided he was too busy, too important, too successful to maintain that connection? Didn't know anything about her life outside of how she served his needs. He canceled his lunch meeting, told Karen to hold his calls, said he wasn't feeling well, which was true in a way. He wasn't well. He'd been unwell for years, maybe decades. He just hadn't admitted it until now. That's all it would take to call her. Or worse, that she would answer, but wouldn't care. That he'd waited too long. That he'd damaged the relationship too much. That the threads had grown too weak to repair. Hello? Or that something had come up and he needed to cancel whatever plan they'd half-heartedly made. He could speak with confidence about quarterly projections and market strategies and competitive analysis. The assumption that he'd only call if something was wrong, if there was a crisis, if there was bad news to deliver or a problem to solve. He could hear her breathing. Imagined her standing in their kitchen, or maybe in her studio, the spare bedroom she'd converted into an art space, the one she disappeared into most evenings while he stayed late at work. Not about bills or schedules, or who's picking up groceries. A real conversation about us, about what we're feeling, about anything that actually matters. Resigned, like she'd accepted this as their reality a long time ago. It's been a long time, David, like blaming his sudden awareness on someone else instead of owning his own blindness. I don't want to wake up 10 years from now and realize we spent our whole marriage in the same house but completely separate lives. I thought needing people made you weak, that she'd already moved on emotionally, even if she was still living in the same condo. You, good intentions that evaporated the moment the next work crisis pulled him back in. And I'm not asking you to just trust that I've changed. I'm asking for a chance. Just one more chance to show you that I can be different, that I can be the husband you deserve. And it made me see what I've been refusing to see, that I've been destroying the most important relationships in my life, that I've been so focused on being successful that I've failed at the things that actually matter, that I've been building a life that looks impressive on the outside but feels empty on the inside. I don't want to lose you, Amanda. I don't want to keep living like this. Something gentler, almost wistful. I don't know if it can hold anymore. Just us. I can't keep waiting for you to show up in our marriage. I can't keep being the only one who cares about us. If you're not serious this time, if this is just another empty promise, then I'm done. I'm really done. And then, so quietly, he almost missed it. I love you too. Reports waiting for review. A conference call scheduled for 4 o'clock with the West Coast team. Budget projections that needed to be finalized by end of day. Something fundamental. Really looked at her for what felt like the first time in years. I don't know anything about you. Do you have children? How had he worked with this woman for 12 years and never asked about her children? Never learned their names? Never shown any interest in her life beyond how efficiently she managed his calendar? Starting now, that's worth a lot more than one afternoon off and some ice cream money. I don't say it enough. I've never said it, but I appreciate you. You keep this place running. You keep me running. And I'm grateful. Wandered the aisles, feeling completely out of his element. When was the last time he'd bought Amanda flowers? Their anniversary 3 years ago? No, he'd had Corinne order those. Before that, no judgment in her expression, just warmth. Soft, as long as you're willing to try. When had his own home become just another place to sleep between workdays? Her eyes closed for a moment. You should have. You can start by washing the lettuce. At his own incompetence. At the absurdity of a 47-year-old CEO who didn't know how to sort vegetables. What you thought about. What made you happy or frustrated or anything. About a conversation she'd had with her sister that left her feeling conflicted. Resentments they'd buried. Fears they'd never voiced. Amanda told him how invisible she'd felt over the years. How lonely. How many nights she'd cried herself to sleep, wondering where the man she married had gone. I promise I'll keep choosing us. Every single day. David put his arm around her, and she leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. about the stranger who cared enough to reach out, to shake him awake, to remind him of what mattered, to become the man he was meant to be, deciding whether to trust this unexpected overture, started rebuilding what they'd lost, made plans to meet regularly, started texting again, started being brothers again. That the intern he hadn't bothered to learn the name of was named Jordan and was working 2 jobs to pay for night school, not because he was pushing them harder, but because he was treating them like people. Days where he forgot to be present. Days where he slipped back into old patterns. They support you. They remind you that you're never truly alone. These stories show us that it's possible to rebuild the invisible threads and restore connection, as long as we recognize that we are not meant to walk this path alone, right? And turn on notifications to receive an alert whenever a new daily message of light is published on this channel. There's a truth that runs through every major spiritual tradition, every ancient wisdom teaching, every philosophical framework that stood the test of time. It shows up in different words, different metaphors, different cultural contexts. But at its core, it's the same fundamental principle. Not one in some vague, feel-good way that sounds nice, but doesn't mean anything practical. A spiritual law is real and as binding as the law of gravity. Not because there's some cosmic scorekeeper in the sky tallying up your good and bad deeds, but because you are energetically connected to everything and everyone around you. What you put out into the web reverberates back to you. Everything is interconnected. Separation is an illusion. Everything is connected. We're hardwired for empathy, hardwired for connection, hardwired to recognize that what happens to others matters, because in a very real sense, they are us and we are them. And once you truly understand it, not just intellectually, but in your bones, in your heart, in your very soul, it changes how you move through the world. Or you can acknowledge them, offer assistance if you can, at the very least see them as a fellow human being. You're telling yourself and the universe that you are different from them, that their suffering doesn't concern you, that you exist in a separate category of humanity. It strengthens the walls around your heart and weakens the threads that connect you to the world, connects you more deeply to the web of life. It reminds you that you're part of something bigger, that your life matters in the context of the whole. They create patterns of energy that shape your life in profound ways. It's not some special gift they were born with. Who complains that life is unfair, that people are always letting them down, that nothing ever works out for them? Who treats people as means to an end rather than as ends in themselves? To what you actually put out into the world, not what you say you believe or what you wish you were doing. To the energy you broadcast, to the threads you weave. One moment at a time, you're acknowledging the flow of energy through the web. You're saying, I trust that there's enough. I trust that when I give, I create space to receive. I trust that the threads will hold me. What you send out comes back. Always. They think, okay, I'll be nice to people so that good things come back to me. They approach it like a transaction, like a cosmic vending machine where you put in kindness and get out success. You're not giving from genuine care or love, you're giving to get. Their suffering is your suffering, not because you're trying to get something, but because you're finally aligned with how reality actually works. They're talking about the trees, the animals, the rivers, the stones, the earth itself. Everything. What they take from the land, they must give back in gratitude and respect, because it's aligned with the law of interconnection. Change your approach. But that shift changes everything. You act with more compassion, knowing that what you do to them, you ultimately do to yourself. A fundamental law of the universe connects you to people and circumstances that help you grow and thrive and become who you are always meant to be. You never could be. Every comfort you enjoy is the result of countless people's labor, invention, sacrifice. Not just agreeing that it sounds nice, but embodying it, living it, becoming it. To weave a web so strong, so beautiful, so full of love that it uplifts everyone it touches. What are the practical, concrete steps you can take to strengthen the invisible threads in your own life? Understanding the law of interconnection is one thing. Living it is another. Powerless to change your actual life. These practices, when done consistently and with genuine intention, have the power to transform your relationships, your sense of belonging, your entire experience of being alive. With seeing people, really seeing them. Extras in the movie of my life. Functionaries who serve a purpose but don't really exist as full human beings with their own stories, struggles, dreams. Days when they feel on top of the world and days when they can barely get out of bed. I appreciate you. Thank you for what you do. I see you, thinking about their meetings, their emails, their to-do lists, their problems. Sometimes whole days would go by where no one spoke to him except to complain about something: the heat, the cold, a visitor who couldn't find parking. A little suspicious even. In his 5 years working that desk, nobody had ever done this. Nobody ever cared. He felt invisible most days, like he didn't matter to anyone. He began greeting people more warmly as they entered the building, even the ones who didn't acknowledge him back. And the entire atmosphere of that building lobby shifted, just a little bit brighter, a little more human. Your coworker, to you, it's a powerful force that strengthens every thread it touches. It has to be genuine. You can't just say thanks in passing and expect it to have much impact. Kids dealing with poverty, violence, trauma, challenges that most people can't imagine. Security called down to her classroom, and Maria came to the office, confused and a little concerned. Who smelled bad sometimes because they didn't have running water at home. Who struggled with reading but worked so hard, stayed after school every day to practice. Something that changed my entire life. Every Friday after school, you would stay late and help me with my reading. You never made me feel stupid. You never gave up on me. And one day, you brought in a box of clothes that you said your nephew had outgrown. But I knew you'd bought them for me. I had every reason to give up, to drop out, to become another statistic. But you saw me. You cared. You didn't give up on me when everyone else had. That I mattered. It reminded her why she became a teacher in the first place. It gave her the energy to keep going, to keep showing up, to keep caring for another 20 years. Because Maria showed up with renewed purpose, renewed hope, renewed belief that what she did mattered. Tell them exactly what they did and how it impacted you. Don't hold back. Don't assume they already know. Don't wait for the right time. Be genuine. Let them feel the depth of your appreciation. Watch how the thread between you strengthens and glows. Watch how they light up. Watch how that energy ripples outward, inspiring them to express gratitude to others, creating a cascade of connection and appreciation. Most powerful gifts you can give another human being. It requires discipline. It requires setting aside your own agenda, your own need to be heard, your own desire to fix or advise or impress. But he had a problem he didn't even recognize. His patients would try to explain their symptoms, and he'd interrupt with diagnoses before they finished speaking. The kind of teenage drama that adults often dismiss as trivial. But to Emma, it was devastating. Her world was crumbling. Looked at him with such hurt in her eyes that it actually made Robert pause. Hadn't been listening to Linda, hadn't been listening to anyone, really. He'd been so focused on being the expert, having the answers, solving the problems, that he'd forgotten how to simply be present with another person. Emma was curled up with her pillow, eyes red from crying, like she'd heard promises before. But this time, they were different tears. Relief, release, She threw her arms around him and held on tight. Felt safe with him. The quality of all his relationships deepened in ways he hadn't thought possible. Really listen. The things they're not quite saying out loud. How deeply it connects you. They don't value your time. Your spouse forgets something? They don't care. It doesn't mean ignoring genuinely harmful behavior or letting people walk all over you. It means giving people the benefit of the doubt, extending grace, recognizing that everyone is fighting battles we know nothing about. Maybe they're dealing with a family crisis. Maybe your email got buried and they genuinely didn't see it. So why assume the worst? Probably made bad choices and now expects everyone else to take care of him. And gently asked, "Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help? And I wanted to know if you need help." The panic attack's debilitating. He was a decorated soldier who'd sacrificed everything for his country and been abandoned by the very systems that were supposed to support him. And "I'm sorry the system failed you," started volunteering at the same veterans org that had helped him, paying it forward to other soldiers, struggling like he had been. What might I not know about their situation? Big, dramatic acts of kindness make for great stories and touching moments. But they're not. They're threads being woven, connections being strengthened, love being sent out into the web. Every day, rain or shine, snow or heat, he walked his route delivering letters and packages. In winter, he'd shovel the walkways of people who couldn't do it themselves, the elderly, the disabled, single parents overwhelmed with work. Hundreds of people showed up. The town hall was packed. How those simple drawings gave her little boy something to smile about when he was too sick to even get out of bed. But knowing Henry would come by, knowing someone cared, had kept him going. Day after day after day. Just a moment where you think, I could make someone's day a little brighter right now. And then you do it. Maybe you leave an encouraging note on someone's car. And it's one of the most powerful ways to deepen connection. It requires taking off the armor, admitting that you don't have it all together, risking rejection or judgment or being seen as weak. They present a polished version of themselves, the highlight reel, the carefully curated image, and wonder why they feel lonely. They were pleasant to each other, professional. Would chat about the weather or weekend plans in the break room. Eventually, her mother wouldn't even remember who Diane was. Don't burden others with your problems. I know exactly how hard this is. They created a bond that never would have existed if Diane hadn't been willing to be vulnerable. You don't have to share your deepest, darkest secrets with everyone, but start somewhere, with someone safe, and practice taking off the mask. Can I talk to you about it? You're replaying old wounds instead of healing them. Not for the other person's sake, though it may benefit them too, but for yours. Choosing to release the person from the debt you feel they owe you. Choosing freedom over bondage. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Enough to destroy the company, destroy Thomas financially, destroy their friendship. Thomas rebuilt financially slowly, painfully. Started a new business, but the bitterness never left. It poisoned everything. His new relationships suffered because he couldn't trust anyone. His health deteriorated from the stress. His joy was gone. Every day you spend hating him is a day he steals from you. He took your money and your business 10 years ago, but you're giving him your present and your future by refusing to let go. When are you going to stop giving him that power? Still letting old wounds bleed fresh every single day. He simply quietly, in the privacy of his own heart and with the help of a therapist, began the process of releasing the resentment. Not all at once, not completely in that moment, but gradually, over weeks and months, he felt lighter, freer, like he could breathe fully for the first time in years. He started a new business that became even more successful than the first, not because forgiving made him rich, But because forgiving freed up his energy to create instead of destroy, to build instead of obsess over past wounds. However that looks for you. And that's okay. Some relationships are meant to end. Some people aren't safe to have in your life. They react instead of respond. They speak before they think. They act on impulse without considering consequences. When something happens, when someone says something that triggers you, when you're about to make a decision, when you feel an impulse to act, you pause. It reminds you that you're not a victim of circumstances or emotions or other people's behavior. You're a conscious being with the power to choose your response. When her husband forgot something, she'd launch into criticism before he could even explain. The anger just came out of her automatically, like a reflex she couldn't control. It seemed too simple. One more breath out, 3, and then gratitude. Her kids relaxed around her. Her husband started coming home earlier. Her friends commented on how much more peaceful she seemed. Ask yourself, is what I'm about to say or going to strengthen or weaken the threads between me and this person? A commitment to living in alignment with the law of interconnection. A daily choice to strengthen the web instead of weakening it. The point is choosing again and again, day after day, to strengthen threads instead of fraying them. They'll celebrate you when you succeed. They'll remind you on your darkest days that you're never, ever alone. You're part of a vast, beautiful, interconnected web of humanity. Someone who lived these truths more fully than anyone who's ever walked this earth. Someone who showed us, through his very life, what it looks like to be perfectly connected to every human soul. And now I ask you, did you enjoy the 8 practical steps in this daily message of light? We've talked about David's transformation. We've explored the spiritual law of interconnection. We've walked through 8 powerful practices to strengthen the invisible threads in your life. One more example that shows you what it looks like to live in perfect, complete, unbreakable connection with every human soul. It's about someone who understood the invisible threads so deeply, so completely, that his entire life became a demonstration of how to weave them with love, in a way that's still rippling through the invisible threads 2,000 years later. Jesus remembered them, the threads that society had cut, that religion had severed, that fear had frayed. Jesus restored them all. Think about how Jesus lived. Really think about it, recognizing that everything flows through the web of connection. He saw her humanity. He saw her worth. He refused to let her be defined by her worst moment. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he told his friends, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow." He didn't pretend to have it all together. He was real, authentic, human. He chose connection over bitterness. That you are never, ever alone because you are connected to him, to the Father, to every other soul through threads that cannot be broken. So here's my invitation to you today. Invite Jesus into your journey of strengthening the invisible threads, the relationships that are broken, the loneliness you feel. Ask him to help you see the connections you've been missing. Feel the threads connecting you to him, to the Father, to every other person who's ever sought this connection. You're not alone in this. You're part of something vast and beautiful and eternal. May the love of Christ, the love that sees you, knows you, and never, ever lets you go, fill your heart today. May you feel the invisible threads connecting you to the Father, to Jesus, to every soul who's ever been touched by this eternal love, by the love that binds us all. If today's reflection helped you recognize the invisible threads connecting you to others, I'm sure you'll enjoy this other video I've selected especially for you here on the screen. Click now to continue discovering the power of spiritual connection. So here we are. You've heard David's story. You've learned about the invisible threads. You've discovered the spiritual law of interconnection. You've been given 8 powerful practices. You've seen how Jesus lived in perfect connection with every soul. You can agree with everything I've said. You can even feel inspired, moved, touched by these stories. And I want you to answer honestly, even if it's just in your own heart. Finally admit that you are made for connection. I know the walls you've built were built for a reason. When you were seen, really seen, by another human being. When you felt held by love. You have to have that difficult conversation you've been putting off. You have to take down the walls, brick by brick, even though it terrifies you. Offer that forgiveness. From surviving to truly living. Tell me what scares you most about this journey and what excites you most about it. Hit that notification bell